ayah number 98 last time, from Surah number 12, named Surah Yusuf. Okay, we have been following and tracking the Surah, and we're coming to the end, most probably in this session. Okay. Last time we finished when the children of Jacob were told by their dad to go back to Yusuf and to check for Yusuf and for his brother Benjamin. So both Joseph and his brother. So in the following section, okay, in the following section, the verses will take us through what happened when they reached to Yusuf's place and seek to get commodities, but much more to seek to get contact with Yusuf again. So now this time they are going, as Joseph asked of them last time, they are going to go with the whole family. So Jacob, his wife, and the 10 children are going to meet Yusuf. So ayah number 99, verse number 99, it says, and when they entered unto Yusuf's place, he took to himself his mom and dad, and he told them, enter into Egypt. God willing, you will be safe. And he lifted up his dad and mom to give them help to climb to the throne. You know that Yusuf almost became the king, or at least the minister of commodities. Excuse me. So, and everybody bowed down to him, which is the greeting offered for kings at that time. They prostrate to the ground for Yusuf. And Yusuf started to talk, addressing his dad. He said, oh my dad, this is the realization of the dream I told you about from before. My Lord has made it materialize. My Lord made my dream materialize. And he has done good to me as he gave me release from the prison and brought you from the Bedouin desert. After Satan had implanted conspiracy between me and my brothers. My Lord is very compassionately discreet in whatever he wills. He is the oft-knowing, oft-wise. And then he started to address Allah, acknowledging his, bounties and his gifts to him. And he said, "O my Lord, you have given me power and dominion and kingdom, and certainly you have taught me how to interpret dreams. You are the maker and the creator of heavens and earth. You are my defender and my protector in this life and in the hereafter. O my Lord, please put me to death as a Muslim and connect me with the righteous ones, referring to previous prophets. So this is the end of the story of Yusuf as a story. And I'm going to go over the commentaries on the couple of ayat that we just read. As his father and his mother came with the 10 children who were going back and forth bringing commodities and exchanging commodities, Yusuf is trying to draw lessons for himself and for his family. So he starts off by reminding his father of the dream that he had in the beginning of the surah. In the beginning of this chapter, Joseph started off with a dream that he told his dad about. And then he started to count God's blessing on him, that he has given him release from the prison, that he has gathered him with his family who came from Palestine. And he skims over the fact that his brothers conspired to kill him, and he accuses Satan of the one who implanted evil, and he did not accuse or point a finger to his brother. He didn't say, those are my brothers who were about to kill me, throwing me in the well. He pointed to the shaitan, Satan. And then he started to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after counting lots of his blessings, you have given me knowledge, you have given me wisdom, and you taught me how to interpret dreams. And then he asks God, when he dies, to die in submission to God. This is what it means to die as a Muslim, in the state of submission to God. Okay? And he asked God to connect him with the righteous ones who came before, referring to his father, his grandfather, and great grandfather. His father is Jacob, his grandfather is Isaac, his great grandfather is Abraham. So he wanted to connect with them, which means he's asking God to give him entry into paradise after he dies. So this is what this section was telling us. Then now God is talking to us through his addressing of Prophet Muhammad. So he says, this is part of the news of the unseen between Prophet Yusuf and Prophet Muhammad, maybe a couple of thousand years or so. So Allah is telling him, that story that we have told you, which happened before you were born, is part of the knowledge that is unseen and unknown to you and your generation, right? And you received this through our revelation to you, O Muhammad. You were not with them, meaning Yusuf's brothers, you were not with them when they conspired together to plot against Yusuf. Ayah number 103, verse number 103, and the majority of people, no matter what you do, will not believe. And you do not ask them to pay you off for communicating the message. This is no more than a reminder for the world, which means a message from God and a reminder. So what Muhammad brought to his people is not Muhammad's message, it is a message from God for the world, not only the world of humans, but the world of jinnis, the world of other things. Verse number 105, and whatever sign or miracle proof of evidence that comes from heaven or the earth, they will pass by it and they are turning away from it, which means people who don't want to believe, like the audience in the village of Mecca, those were the audience of Prophet Muhammad, they would not believe no matter how much evidence, proofs, and signs or miracles that they see from God or from Prophet Muhammad. Ayah number 106, and the majority of them would only believe as they mix their belief with associating partners with God. So their belief is never pure. Their belief is always going to be mixed with, and this is the majority, which means don't be deceived by someone saying, I'm a Muslim today because of whatever reason. But when they practice, when they live with you, you will be able to tell. So many of the idol worshippers of Mecca, the big pagans, they were more connected to idol worshipping than the worship of the one God. In fact, many of them offered Prophet Muhammad to believe if they get the Muhammad to worship their gods one day and they worship his God one day, as if the universe has two sets of God. Muhammad is God and the pagan gods. So this is part of what this verse is referring to. So then ayah number 107, verse number 107 raises a question. Do they feel safe lest something comes to hover and cover them all from the torment of God, or lest the hour comes all of a sudden while they do not even feel it? Verse number 108, say, O Muhammad, this is my path. I invite and call people unto the path of Allah, Allah being the true God. On basis of a clear vision, which means a vision that he got from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Vision here doesn't mean dream, but vision means a view, a clear view, if you will. Me and those who follow me have the same view, which is what we get from the Quran, is the view that Allah has given Prophet Muhammad. And he is saying, I invite unto the path of Allah, me and those who follow me are all following a clear view that came to us from God through the revelation. And by the grace of Allah and by the praise of Allah, I am not among the pagans. I do not worship idols. Then after God spoke to Prophet Muhammad and through him to us, comes ayah number 109, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have not sent before you any but men to whom we reveal from the people of the villages. So whatever prophet who lives in any village or any town, he gets revelation from God. And all of the messengers were men. All of the messengers were men. And they received the revelation from God. And they communicated to the people in their village. Then it raises a question. Haven't they roamed the earth? Haven't they walked the earth to look and see how was the fate of communities before them? referring to communities that God destroyed before them. Them are the reference to the pagans. Okay? There were communities before the community of the prophet who started off by rejecting his message. And the verse here is saying, haven't they gone through the earth to see? And they used to go north and south and see the fates of communities that rejected the message or denied the messengers. Like the people of Noah, the people of Ad, the people of Thamud, the people of Prophet Saleh or Lot, or many others. So Allah is telling Prophet Muhammad, haven't they traveled to see the fates of these communities? Haven't they known that we destroyed them because of their denial of the message? And the abode of the hereafter is definitely better for those who live a conscientious life. Don't you reason, the verse questions, don't you reason that you are better off believing in God? You will be better off not only in the hereafter, but here, even though the hereafter is better, and in the hereafter it is eternal life in the garden of bliss. Verse 110, it cites how situations go with messengers when they are faced with rejection, belying, and denying. It says here, I'm sorry, trying to get the portion where I was. Yes. Okay. So the app closed all of a sudden. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. This is a number 110. Until messengers feel desperately hopeless that people will ever believe, and they believe that they have been belied and rejected for good, that nobody would believe, then our victory and support will come to them, and we would save whom we will, which means the believers, and our punishment, the criminal ones, are never safe from our punishment. Then the final verse in the surah, certainly there has been lessons to take from the stories of these prophets for those who have reflective minds and thoughtful brains. This has not been a fabricated story, but it is a confirmation of what has come before and a detailed aspect of everything regarding this story, and guidance and mercy for people who believe. So, in this section, in those set of ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us that when He spoke to Prophet Muhammad, He told him, tell them that I do not ask you to pay me for communicating the message to you. This is only a reminder from God. But we want you to know that whatever sign, evidence, proof, or miracle that comes to them from heaven or from the earth, they will pass by it, turning away from it, because they are not interested in belief. They are interested in their idols and in their business. And many of them would not believe without associating partners with God. Have they felt safe from our punishment that may come from God, or have they felt safe from the hour to come and destroy them all? That it concludes then to Prophet Muhammad that the Prophet Muhammad is not bringing things from his own, that he is following a path that was followed also by previous prophets. And he is on a clear view and vision of what this path will take him to. The path to God is the same as the path to paradise. I follow it, and those who follow me also follow the same, on the same clear guidance. And I am not, and I will not be one of the idol worshippers. And you need to know, Muhammad, we have not sent before you, but men to whom we reveal revelation and message for the people of the villages in which they live. Okay? Haven't they roamed and walked the earth to see what the fates of those before them was? Have they seen the fates of the communities of other prophets that we mentioned before? And then, as a lesson and a reminder for the prophet, Allah told him, until messengers felt desperately hopeless and they gave up that anybody would believe in them and follow them, and they believe that they have been rejected for good and belied for good, then our victory for the prophets and the followers will come, and we will save whom we will, and the criminals will never get help to save them from our severe punishment. Then the final conclusion, in their stories, meaning the stories of previous prophets, are lessons to learn for those who have reflective, pondering heads and minds. None of that is a fabricated story or fabricated anything. It is rather a confirmation of what came before you and detailed guidance and mercy for those who believe. So this is the end of the chapter titled Yusuf or named Yusuf. And if you have any questions on the story or the surah, any part of it, this is the time to take your questions.
So I have a question here. I'm just asking for clarification.
Sure.
So you talked earlier about how those who were not believers and those who would not accept the path and the vision of Allah were similar to those, or they were the same people in the past who other prophets would ignore their prophecy, their statements. So his question is similar to past prophets like Abraham, like Adam, like Noah. When Prophet Jesus shared his message and a good number believed him, but many did not, is it that same scale? Is it the same?
It's the same with every prophet. Very few people believe and follow the prophets, and the vast majority reject the prophets. It's the same pattern. Humanity did not change. And as we are talking today, the vast majority of humans do not believe in God. And if they do not follow the prophets.
So, for example, when Jesus healed a blind man, there were people who were actually there to see it. There were people that witnessed the miracles, or those that he would make able-bodied once again, to actually see these miracles happening. So those really were the miracles that changed so many people's minds to finally believe him as followers. So then I guess taking that to the context of Islam, seeing miracles.
Well, every prophet came with certain miracles that were seen by his people as a miracle. Okay? Moses came with a stick that he split the sea on two sides and they crossed the Red Sea. Jesus, God gave him the ability to bring the dead to life and to do other miracles, healing the sick and the leper and the born blind. Prophet Muhammad also had miracles. He fed an army from a bowl of milk. He fed a whole army, 400, 500, from one bowl of milk. One bowl of food, he fed a whole army. Water sprang out of between his fingers, and he would pour it into something, some bowl or any container, and they would take it and use it to wash, to cook, to do everything. Hundreds of people. So every prophet brought certain miracles. All miracles are God's work through the hands of a prophet, or through the tongue of the prophet, or through anything that the prophet would do. Jesus himself says, on my own power I can do nothing, but on the power of the one who sent me. Same was said by Prophet Muhammad, that it is not he who is bringing this water or bringing this food. In the desert, he was passing by a very dry-breasted goat. And the lady that was using the goat, whose goat was hers, he came and asked her, do you have any milk, lady? Because in the desert, you can drop as a guest for anybody. So she said, no, this goat is all what I have, and her breast is dry, as you could see. So he sat down, washed his hands, and he prayed and asked Allah to let the milk run through the breast of the female goat, and it started pouring milk. And he kept filling, for everybody that was there, he started filling their bowls and cups and everything, and they drank all of them. And the lady said, this is a miracle. This is unheard of. This goat has been as dry, we thought it's dying. So there are so many physical miracles that God blessed all the prophets with, including Prophet Muhammad, Okay? And the most persistent miracle is the Quran. The Quran taught people that the earth was a sphere, not a flat surface. 1400 years ago, which means way before Galileo, way before the scientific revolution in Europe or in the Middle East, way before everybody. How could Muhammad know when he traveled nowhere beyond Arabia? He never traveled but on land in Arabia. The Quran tells Muhammad that seawater and sweet water do not mix, and there is a barrier between them. This is a recent discovery. If anybody studied oceanography, you understand that this is a recent discovery, and now it is on video with on YouTube. How could Muhammad know that when he never crossed a river or a sea? So there are lots of miracles. Muhammad was told in the Quran how the fetus develops in the mother's womb. And those stages that are described in the Quran are so accurate that a Western professor of gynecology and embryology and anatomy, he's a professor in Canada, his name is Keith Moore. He borrows the verses of the Quran and installed them in the beginning of his book on embryology. And he says there is no single reference that would bring this information before this discovery, the discovery of microscopes, unless it comes from God. There was no source, no way anybody could have known how the fetus evolves in the mother's womb before the discovery of the microscope. So when he saw the ayat, and he knew that these ayat in the Quran are 1400 years old, he couldn't help it. He said, this is not normal. This is a miracle that a book 1400 years old is that accurate about the development of the fetus. So he borrowed those ayat, put them in his textbook, even though he is not a Muslim. But he says, this is a miracle. It's worth mentioning. So any student who studies his book for a reference, and his book is used in all universities all over the world. The development of the human embryo. That's the title of the book. You can Google it, Keith Moore. The first chapter is all about the verses in the Quran. And these are not a long chapter in the Quran. These are few verses in the Quran that describe how the fetus evolves and develops in the embryo. So the Quran is still telling us miracles that we are yet to discover, whether it is about hurricanes, volcanoes, earth science, astronomy, everything there is of material knowledge. Allah says in the Quran, we will continue to show them our signs, proofs, and evidence and miracles until they know that it is the truth from their Lord. So this is a book of miracles that continues to produce miracles. The more we discover of things and refer back to the Quran and find some of those things are mentioned in the Quran, the more faith a Muslim has, and the more opportunity those who do not know about the Quran will get a chance to know whatever miracles the Quran referred to 1400 years ago before man has discovered anything.
Get your point. Thank you for that.
Sure, okay. Any other question?
So I have a question about the prophet Joseph and Allah's selection of him as a prophet.
Yes.
So when he was imprisoned, and eventually, though, was freed by the Pharaoh, excuse me, I'm just for clarification.
No. Could you stand because the camera,
Oh,
as you translate the sound? No, as you
do you,
translate.
yep. Could you please?
So it has to
Yep,
be
I will.
done
I will.
with
I
the
will.
camera.
Yep.
So my question is regarding the prophet Joseph. And when the Pharaoh was impressed by his ability to interpret dreams and he offered to free him, Joseph didn't immediately accept the offer. He said, "First, I want you to consult with the women who accused me in the first place if I actually did something wrong." And those women said they weren't willing to accuse him of that. So I'm just wondering why the prophet Joseph made that decision to go ahead and ask the women to reaffirm their claims.
This is a very good question. As we explained when we went over this portion, Yusuf didn't want to get out on clemency, because clemency would mean that he was guilty, but the king forgave him. He wanted to get out as an innocent person, because he was actually innocent. And God helped him prove his innocence by bringing a witness from the family of the king. The young boy who witnessed for Yusuf and said, if his shirt was cut from the front, then she has told the truth and he's lying. If his shirt was cut from the back, then he has told the truth and she is lying. Okay? So Yusuf, after proving all of this, they sent him to prison to give her a clear name and to exonerate her from her own sinfulness. So when the king sent to Yusuf to the prison and told his messenger, bring him out for me, I need him, Yusuf said, no, I am not going out as a sinful prisoner who has been forgiven by the king on clemency. I want to go out as an innocent person. I want to prove my innocence first. So he sent a message back to the king telling him, check with the women and let us see what they say. Those women who cut their hands when they saw me entering the room, ask them if I am the one who was guilty. And that brought about his innocence, the proof for his innocence. So the reason was that he didn't want to go out on clemency. He wanted to go out as an innocent person who was wronged by being sent to the prison in the first place.
Point is all clear. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Any other question about Yusuf or anything else?
So just to be clear, can you clarify who Yusuf was that you're referring to, Joseph Yusuf?
Joseph, the son of Jacob, is named Yusuf in Arabic. Jacob, his father is Isaac. Isaac's father is Abraham. Prophet Abraham had two children. Ishmael when Ibrahim was 86 years old, and Isaac when Abraham was 100 years old. So Prophet Muhammad comes from the descendants of Prophet Ishmael. Prophet Joseph comes from the descendants of Prophet Isaac. He is an immediate grandchild of Prophet Isaac.
So they are the same bloodlines?
Yes, but Muhammad through Ishmael and Joseph and Moses and Jesus and David and Solomon, all of those Israelite prophets come as descendants of Jacob. And Jacob is a descendant of Isaac. Isaac was the brother of Ishmael, the younger brother of Ishmael. Both of them come from Abraham.
So then to clarify here, the Prophet Muhammad had his own family, had a separate family.
Yes.
A separate family not of the same bloodline.
Well, they all go back to Abraham. That's where the bloodline starts. But then it shifts because Abraham had two children. Ishmael, the older one, from which descendants Muhammad came. Isaac is his half brother, both born to Abraham, and Isaac has his own descendants. Jacob was his son, and from Jacob came all the Israelite prophets.
So most of
they
the
are
prophets
cousins.
actually are descendants of Isaac.
That is correct. Most of the prophets are descendants of Isaac.
Okay, so that's making more sense now.
Yes.
There's just, you use the term Israel? Israel,
Yes.
where does Israel fall in that?
Israelite prophets, not Israel. Israel means the servant of God. And that was a nickname, if you will, for Prophet Jacob. So Jacob had two names, Jacob, and he was labeled the servant of God.
Moses as well, correct?
All prophets are referred to as servants of God. Isa also. He says, I am a servant of God.
Okay, that makes sense now. So one more question, sorry to ask again. Actually, do you mind speaking and I'll sign again?
So you were talking about the Prophet Joseph, and my question is just how that relates to modern life. So how the struggles of the Prophet Joseph and the lessons he learned, how that can be applied to our lives
You
today.
must have missed 2 sessions of the story, if not more. Because we went over the lessons.
2 of them, yep.
Yeah, every stage of his life. So when he told his father the dream in the beginning, his father told him, don't tell your brothers, lest they plot something against you. It's a lesson of being careful, a lesson of keeping your private matters private. We talk so much about privacy, so here is the Quran telling us, if you have something to care for, don't just spread it all around the place, because as much as you have friends and family, even some of your family could envy you, right? So that's one lesson that comes in the early stage. Also, comes in the story when his brothers conspired, right, and plotted. They brought his shirt minced with blood, right? And they said to the father, "This is his shirt, and he would not believe us, even if we were telling the truth." Here is a remarkable lesson. When somebody lies, he uses a language that shows that he is lying. Sometimes we pay attention and know it, sometimes we don't. Well, that's a lesson also, okay? His father discovered that they were lying and he did not believe them. Allah told him, but be patient. So he relied on his patience and in his trust in Allah to bring his son back. So he never gave up on the coming back of his son Yusuf because Allah told him that your son is safe. Okay? But out of missing him, he kept crying and weeping until his eyesight was lost. Okay? Then Yusuf was sold as a potential slave for a caravan from Egypt, and the caravan happened to be the caravan of the king. So his wife, out of love of Yusuf, who was a marvelously beautiful child, right? Very beautiful child, she told her husband, the king told his wife, keep him and protect him and take care of him. Maybe he will grow up to help us, which means to be a servant, or we can adapt him as our own child. So, adoption is something that Islam supports, provided that you do not change the name of the adopted child. So, if his name is Yusuf, call him Yusuf. Joseph, call him Joseph, and that's it. Even if you don't know their parents, call them by their first name, whatever name they go to by. Okay? So, when he went to the palace, and he grew up to be a little bit mature young man, like 18 or 20, he was tempted by the wife of the king. And we know in the story, he stood up against the temptation, and Allah helped him prove his innocence inside the palace, despite her insistence that the king will punish him or put him in prison. But the king realized that it was her mistake because of the witness evidence. So despite all of this, they decided, the people in the palace, the elites in the palace, decided, oh, we cannot ruin the reputation of the lady of the palace, so we have to hide him, put him in prison until the story dies. But the story doesn't die. Women in the town start talking about it, right? So the story keeps Joseph from being a child playing in a family of a prophet with 11 other children who were his brothers, and he was a happy child to be a child in crisis, thrown into a well, being left to die, then being picked up and sold as a slave. So the story gives us the ups and the downs in life in the form of what happens with Yusuf. So all of his life, ups and downs, ups and downs. And this is a huge lesson for every one of us. Life is always full of ups and downs. But if you keep your faith, huh? If you keep your faith, nobody can take anything away from you. And that's what the lesson that Yusuf gives us in the beginning. إنه من يتق ويصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين. Most certainly, those who exercise piety and connect with God and observe God's commands, Allah would never waste the deeds of the good or righteous people. That's an amazing lesson for us to learn, that no matter how many people conspire against you, if Allah wants to save you, He will save you. If Allah wants them to succeed, He will make them succeed. If Allah wants to put you in prison despite the fact that you're innocent, you will be in prison. If Allah wants to get you out of prison despite the conspiracy of the palace, Allah will get you out of the prison. So it shows the power of Allah beyond human conspiracies and plots. Definitely, we went over so many other lessons in the story, but this is a brief summary of some of those lessons.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate that.
Okay, done? Okay, we are finished with Surah Yusuf completely, and next time we are taking Surah Ar-Ra'd, the thunder, which is Surah number 13, the beginning. Okay?
You know what a broom is?
Huh?
You know what a broom is? Jordan, do you know that?
Yeah.